Keir Starmer finds himself at the centre of a political firestorm, and this time, it's not just his opponents calling for his head. It's his own party, his own allies, and the very unions that helped shape the Labour movement. The revelation of leaked emails exposing secret agreements with major corporations has ignited outrage across the political spectrum. Starmer, the man who built his leadership on the promise of integrity, transparency, and a steadfast commitment to workers' rights, has been caught red-handed engaging in backroom deals with the very corporate elites he once vowed to hold accountable. The sheer hypocrisy of it all is staggering. For years, Starmer has positioned himself as the alternative to a corrupt, out-of-touch Conservative government, claiming to represent the interests of ordinary people. Yet, behind closed doors, he has been negotiating with powerful lobbyists, softening Labour's stance on key regulations, and making guarantees that directly benefit big business, all while feeding the public the same tired rhetoric about standing up for workers. And now that these emails have surfaced, Labour's rank and file, the unions, and even some of his own MPs are furious. The reaction from the unions has been immediate and brutal. These are not just disgruntled activists or opposition figures looking to score political points. These are the very organisations that Labour depends on for financial and grassroots support. They are the backbone of the party, and their loyalty is not unconditional. Starmer's apparent betrayal of Labour's founding principles has not just angered them, it has led to serious discussions about withdrawing their backing entirely. If that happens, Starmer's leadership could unravel faster than anyone imagined. Let's be clear, this is not just a minor scandal. This is an existential crisis for Labour. The unions are not mincing their words, they are openly calling Starmer's leadership into question. How can he expect to win the trust of working-class voters if he's been secretly selling them out to corporate interests? The timing of these revelations could not be worse. With a general election looming, Labour should be rallying its base, uniting behind a common cause, and presenting a strong, principled alternative to the Tories. Instead, the party is tearing itself apart from within, and at the centre of it all is a leader whose credibility has been shattered. And what has Starmer done in response? Damage control, obfuscation, and desperate attempts to silence the controversy. The Labour leadership has tried to downplay the significance of the leaked emails, claiming that they have been taken out of context or misinterpreted. But that excuse simply doesn't hold water. The documents are explicit. They show Starmer making commitments that directly contradict his public stance on key issues. His words, his promises, now mean nothing. How can anyone believe a single thing he says when his private dealings paint a completely different picture? The unions know this. The party members know this. And now, even some of Starmer's closest allies are starting to distance themselves from him. It's no secret that there has been growing unrest within Labour over Starmer's leadership style, his authoritarian grip on the party, his tendency to purge left-wing voices, his reluctance to take clear stances on controversial issues. But this scandal has turned private grievances into open rebellion. Key figures within the party are now leaking even more damaging information, suggesting that these corporate deals are just the tip of the iceberg. So, what happens next? If the unions follow through with their threats and withdraw support, Starmer could find himself in an impossible position. Labour's funding would take a massive hit, local activists could refuse to campaign, and a leadership challenge could be on the horizon. The very people who propelled him to power could now be the ones who bring him down. And let's not forget the wider political consequences. The Tories will seize on this scandal, using it to paint Labour as just as dishonest and compromised as they are. For years, Starmer has tried to present himself as the grown-up in British politics. But now, he's looking more and more like just another politician caught in a web of deceit. The Labour leader has always insisted that he is a man of principle, a man of conviction, someone who will change the country for the better. But the leaked emails tell a different story, a story of double-dealing, betrayal, and prioritizing the interests of the powerful over the people he claims to represent. And the worst part? This is not some outside attack orchestrated by political enemies. This is coming from within his own party. His own colleagues, his own allies, have had enough. And that should terrify Keir Starmer more than anything else. Because once a leader loses the trust of their own movement, there is no coming back. Labour is in chaos, and unless Starmer can somehow perform the political equivalent of a miracle, his time at the top may be running out, faster than anyone ever expected. Keir Starmer's elaborate facade has been shattered, and there's no coming back from this. The man who built his political brand on so-called integrity is now exposed as nothing more than a calculating operator, weaving a web of deception so tangled that even his own allies have turned against him. The leaks, damning, irrefutable, and politically catastrophic, lay bare a leader who says one thing in public and quite another behind closed doors. The emails, secret recordings, and internal memos that have surfaced are nothing short of a bombshell. They reveal Starmer's duplicity in full force, his backroom dealings with corporate donors, his deliberate sidelining of the party's grassroots movement, and most shockingly, his utter contempt for the very voters he claims to represent. These aren't baseless allegations, these are direct statements from within his inner circle, confirming what many suspected all along. Starmer's Labour isn't a party of the people, it's a party of deception, manipulation, and political expediency. One of the most explosive revelations to emerge is a series of internal emails detailing how Starmer's team actively worked to suppress voices within the Labour Party who dared to challenge his narrative. Figures who once stood by Labour's core principles were methodically pushed aside, silenced, or outright removed, all in the name of solidifying Starmer's personal grip on power. And now, those very people, the ones he betrayed, are the ones ensuring the truth reaches the public. But that's not even the worst of it. One particular recording, leaked to the press just hours ago, has set social media on fire. In it, a top Starmer aide is heard discussing how to manipulate party members into believing Starmer is still committed to Labour's working-class base, despite behind-the-scenes conversations admitting that the leadership has been courting corporate donors and shifting the party towards a centrist, establishment-friendly agenda. And the language used? Disgusting. The aide openly mocks grassroots members, referring to them as naive fools who will follow whatever narrative is fed to them. The conversation then shifts to plans for a media strategy, how to carefully craft speeches and policies to keep the left quiet, while ensuring the financial backers remain happy. If Starmer's critics had ever needed a smoking gun to prove he is nothing more than a puppet of the establishment, this is it. Labour supporters, the real ones, the ones who built this party on working-class values and genuine representation, are now furious. They've watched as Starmer has systematically gutted the party from the inside, stripping away every last remnant of what it once stood for. But now they have the proof. And that proof has triggered all-out war within Labour. Starmer's most prominent allies are now in open revolt, publicly demanding explanations, distancing themselves from his leadership, and even calling for internal votes of no confidence. Once loyal MPs, those who tirelessly defended him against criticism, have suddenly fallen silent, refusing to take questions from the media or issue statements of support. It's clear, the rats are abandoning the sinking ship. The backlash has been swift and devastating. Key trade unions, the backbone of Labour's funding and historical support, are re-evaluating their relationship with Starmer's leadership, with some even threatening to withdraw financial support altogether. The irony? Starmer spent years purging Labour's left wing, under the illusion that by silencing them, he would create a more electable party. Now, with these leaks proving just how deeply compromised he is, he's discovering that he has no real allies left at all. His response? Pure desperation. Behind closed doors, Starmer's team is in full-blown crisis mode. According to insiders, emergency meetings have been held to control the damage, but no clear strategy has emerged. How could it? What possible defense can they give when the evidence of betrayal is this overwhelming? And yet, Starmer himself appears delusional. Reports suggest that he still believes he can ride out this storm, that a well-crafted speech or carefully managed press appearance will somehow undo the fact that his leadership is collapsing before our very eyes. But the public isn't buying it. The hashtag #StarmerResign has been trending non-stop, and within Labour circles, activists are openly discussing strategies to force him out. And make no mistake, this isn't just a scandal. This is a defining moment. What happens next will determine not just Starmer's fate, but the future of Labour itself. Will the party finally purge itself of his brand of soulless, corporate-driven leadership? Or will he cling on, dragging the party into further chaos? One thing is certain, his enemies have the upper hand, and the clock is ticking.